Good afternoon to everybody. A number of you have asked me a similar question the last few weeks as spring is upon us, and have noticed as many people are more homebound than usual and are spending more time in their homes or front yards, backyards, as I am right now standing in my backyard, and you have noticed that you have nests around your house, maybe in the front, maybe in the back, or different portions of your house, maybe even connected to a window, and you notice that there is a bird hovering, nesting, sitting on top of the nest, and in that nest, typically, usually, more often than not, are either eggs or baby birds. And the question that's been brought to my attention is whether there's a mitzvah, whether it's a rishos, whether it's a requirement, a commandment, a charge, a responsibility, or maybe it's even prohibited, to shoo away the mother bird in order to take the eggs or to take the baby birds. Or let's say I don't want the eggs, or I don't want the baby birds. Am I required to shoo it away? Do I have to shoo it away? Can I shoo it away? Or some have even noted that they understand that it's a skula. It's a very, very meritorious thing, and they could have positive outcome and benefit on oneself and one's family. And therefore, I'd like to address this question on a more public forum, because typically I find that when one or two or three or four or about 10 people have asked this question, that typically means that tens of people have this question. So here's an opportunity to share an approach, a halacha, and a mitzvah with all of you, and to how to properly address this issue. Of course, the Torah tells us in Parshas Kiseitze, there's both a negative commandment and a positive commandment. The Torah tells us, Parshas Kiseitze, that if you see, Shiluach Haken, if you come upon and chance upon a nest, and in that nest there are either birds, baby birds, or a egg or eggs in the nest, then the Torah tells us, Lo sika ha'em al habanim, you're prohibited to take the mother along with the birds. And in the very next pasuk, the Torah tells us, Shaleach tishalach es ha'em v'esabonim tikach. You should shoo away the mother bird, and then one is permitted to take hold of the eggs or the baby birds. The question is why? What's the reason for this mitzvah? And of course, we all know that we don't really know the reason for mitzvahs. We do mitzvahs because it's a gzeres HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's a decree HaKadosh Baruch Hu has charged and commanded us to fulfill a mitzvah, but nonetheless, the Rishonim here in this mitzvah specifically, more than almost any other mitzvah of the Taryag that we have, spend a lot of time discussing and analyzing the reason, the tam for this mitzvah. Besides the classic Sefer HaChinuch, who also has an extraordinary lengthy Shoresh mitzvah describing the mitzvah, the classic Rishonim, including the Rambam, the Ramban, Rabbeinu Bechaye, as well as many, many others, discuss the reason for this mitzvah. I'd like to share with you three reasons as to the Rishonim described for fulfilling this mitzvah. The Rambam, in his Moreh Nevuchim, it's quoted by the Ramban in Parshas Kiseitze, and the mitzvah of Kan Tzipor tells us that it's cruel to take a mother bird while she's sitting on top of her eggs or her baby birds. That's so cruel, that's so wrong, that's so inappropriate, that's so terrible. The Torah therefore is chas, feels awful, and wants to make sure that a mother bird shouldn't be taken advantage of. She shouldn't be taken along with her birds. She shouldn't see that taking place. And therefore the Rambam says, both in the Moreh Nevuchim, in multiple places, that that's the reason that the Torah prohibits, and it's a negative transgression to take the mother bird along with the eggs or along with the baby birds. The Ramban Nachmanides in this pasuk in Parshas Kiseitze says that's not the reason for the mitzvah. The Torah doesn't give us mitzvahs, whether it's an asay or a los asay, because it feels bad for animals. Of course, there's a mitzvah of tsar ba'alei chayim. We don't give distress, and we don't want to create an unbearable situation for an animal. But that's not why the Torah dictates, demands, and requires us to shoo away the mother bird. Says the Ramban, the reason for this mitzvah, both positive and negative commandment, is because the Torah wants man to become different and changed. And therefore, if we're caring about a mother bird, and we care about the eggs and the baby birds, then maybe humans, people, Jews, Klal Yisrael, can become more sensitive, caring people. We are known as Rachmanim, Baishanim, Gomlei Chasadim. We're a nation that's caring to each other and to mankind at large, but it has to start with the animal kingdom. And if we're caring to our pets, if we're caring to our birds and its eggs and its offspring, then ultimately that will have ramifications on our relationships as well. That's the Rambam and that's the Ramban. Rabbeinu Bechaye, however, has a very, very different approach. The approach of Rabbeinu Bechaye is also the approach of the Rikanti, the Gra, as well as the Rabbi Yaakov Emden, and along with Rabbi Yonasan Eibschitz, all have a very similar approach. And it's actually just the opposite of the Rambam and the Ramban. They say that indeed it is cruel, and it is unfortunate for us to shoo away the mother bird just as much as it is to take away the mother bird with the offspring. So why then does the Torah tell us to shoo away the bird? Because that's also painful for the bird to be pushed away from its babies. Says Rabbeinu Bachaya, a totally different reason. It's based upon the Zohar HaKadosh. And in the Zohar it says that when a mother bird is shooed away from its baby bird, or from its eggs that it's nesting or resting on top of, the mother bird cries a terrible, bitter cry and wants to go to the ocean and commit suicide because it's just been shooed away, and the natural mother internal instinct is to care for its kind and for its children, for its offspring. And the mother bird lets out a terrible scream and a cry, and this cry is heard by the ministering angels over the particular bird, and the ministering angel brings these tears in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu hears. The ministering angel says, have Rachmanis on this poor bird, it's just been shooed away from its baby birds, from its eggs. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, have Rachmanis. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu hears the Malach, the ministering angel, having mercy on this particular bird, HaKadosh Baruch Hu automatically has mercy on all of mankind, all of humanity, the animal kingdom, plant life, humans, Jews, Klal Yisrael, and therefore as a result, says Rabbeinu Bachaya, this mitzvah is not done in order that we should have mercy on the bird. It's not done that we become more sensitive people, but rather the mitzvah is done because it's ma'orer rachmei shamayim. It inspires God to have mercy upon His people. And it's this reason of the Rabbeinu Bachaya that inspired me, and I may be inspiring many of you, to consider fulfilling this mitzvah this spring, maybe more than any other time that has been in your life. Therefore, this pshat of Rabbeinu Bachaya actually has two practical applications and ramifications, and the poskim quote it. The first of which is the Chavas Yair. Rabbi Yair Bakrak, the great German posek, notes this reason of Rabbeinu Bachaya, the Gra, as I said as well, based upon the Zohar, and says that even though ordinarily the mitzvah of kan tzipor is what we call a mitzvah kiyumis, it's not a mitzvah chiyuvis. You're not required every time you see a kan, a nest, to shoo away the mother bird and to take the eggs. But if you want to, you can. But says Rav Yair Bakrak, the Chavas Yair, that based upon Rabbeinu Bachaya, you're actually required, if you see a nest, to shoo away the mother bird and to take the eggs as well. And says Rabbi Yair Bakrak that the reason for that is because it's ma'orer rachmei shamayim. How could a person pass up the opportunity to have that God will have mercy on His people, on the world, on mankind, on humanity? And therefore, paskins Rabbi Yair Bakrak against Rov Rishonim and almost all Achronim, they are actually required to fulfill the mitzvah of kan tzipor for this reason of the Rabbeinu Bachaya, to be ma'orer rachmei shamayim. But there's a second practical ramification, and that is as follows: that even though one may be uninterested in taking the eggs, I don't want to eat them, I'm uninterested in taking the birds, I don't want to raise baby birds, I don't want to bring them into my house, I don't want to see them hatch and feed them and take care of them. Nonetheless, says the poskim and the Tzachsam Sofer as well, that in this circumstance, you are indeed not just required to do so, but even though you don't want these baby birds, you should shoo away the mother bird. And you should take advantage of this opportunity to be ma'orer rachmei shamayim in order to do so, even though you're not interested in the birds, you're not interested in the offspring, and you don't want the eggs altogether. That is the approach of Rabbeinu Bachaya, and thus these two practical halachic ramifications. As such, in the circumstances and the context that we have, if you're following the pshat of Rabbeinu Bachaya and the reason that Rabbeinu Bachaya gives, one would be required to start looking around their backyard and to start shooing away the mother bird, whether or not you're interested in the mother bird going away, whether or not you're interested in taking the baby birds or the offspring as well. If you read the psukim carefully, you'll note that there are actually two aspects to the mitzvah. The first of which is shalech t'shalach hasa'ed. You should shoo away the mother bird. And then the eshabanim tikach, and then you should take the eggs or take the baby birds. Rov Rishonim and Poskim hold that it's a requirement to do both aspects of the mitzvah in order to fulfill it. Meaning, if you just shoo away the mother bird and you don't take the eggs, you have actually not fulfilled the mitzvah of kan tzipor. There's a miyut of Rishonim who understand that even though you just shoo away the mother bird, you fulfilled the mitzvah, but the majority opinion of Rishonim is that you're required to do both, to shoo away the mother bird and to take the eggs and to take the baby bird in order to fulfill the mitzvah. That is the background, and that's the basic concept in terms of how to fulfill the mitzvah. But there are three aspects and three halachos that I need to discuss with you in order to make sure that you are going to fulfill this mitzvah properly according to the halacha. Besides these two psukim in the Torah, of course, there is an entire chapter, entire parak Yud Beis in Maseches Chulin, the last chapter in Maseches Chulin, last parak Shiluach Haken, and those dapim, very few short dapim, 3 or 4 blot of Gemara, the basis of Siman Reish Tzadik Beis in Yard there, where the halachos of Kan Tzipor are articulated and are codified. However, many of the halachas, as noted there, don't necessarily speak to our particular circumstances, and there's actually a wonderful contemporary sefer written by a Rebbe Yechiel Weinberger called Shaleach Teshalach, which is a shorthand halacha sefer dealing with the mitzvah of Shiluach Haken. I believe it was actually translated to English, and there is a volume and a tremendous amount of terrific information dealing with this mitzvah, and there are 2 specific technical details of this mitzvah that the author deals with, and I'd like to share with you. The first, which he doesn't talk about extensively in this book, but it's very important to be aware of, is that the pasuk in Parshas Kiseitze says, Ki yikre lecha kan tzipor, which the Gemara understands to mean that if by happenstance you are walking and chance by a nest. However, the Gemara says, la'afuke mizuma. That means that you're only permitted and required to fulfill the mitzvah if you bump into it. But if it's prepared and it's in your backyard or your front yard, which is called a chatzer mishtameres, it's a closed property that is a private, it's a reshus hayachid, you can't fulfill the mitzvah because you're not required to fulfill the mitzvah because the bird is mine, and the eggs are mine, and the baby birds are mine. So there's no reason to shoo away the mother bird. So if that's the case in our backyard or our front yard, we wouldn't be able to fulfill this mitzvah because it's a chatzer mishtameres, it's private property. However, there are 2 ways to address this question. The first of which is no different than if chametz, potentially, would come into your house on Pesach. So the approach that you're supposed to take is, I'm not mikabel, I don't want it, I'm interested in accepting it, and even though typically we say a chatzer is kona, a property, a personal, private property, acquires anything that comes into its property, I could say, I'm not mikabel, I'm not interested in it, and therefore the chametz is not mine, and I don't transgress the avera, the lav of bal yirad bal yamatzeh. The same thing is true here as well. If I'm not interested, and I don't want to be mikabel, a nest, the baby birds, the baby the nests that are around the house, that are in the backyard, in the front yard, the same thing is true as well. It's not called mizuman. It's not called that it's part of a chatzer that's mishtamer, because I don't want this bird, I don't want the mother bird, I don't want the baby birds, I don't want the eggs. However, if you take that approach, that means you have to articulate that and make sure that you say, I am uninterested in this nest, I don't want to own it, I don't want the birds, and I don't want the baby birds. However, Chaim Kanievsky says, and he's quoted in the Sefer Shaleach Teshalach, that you don't even have to do that. And the reason for that is as follows. Most of us, and I would argue the majority, if not all of us, are really uninterested in nests around our house. We don't want nests, we're uninterested in the mess, we don't want the baby birds, we don't want the eggs, it's dirty, it's messy, and we really are uninterested in birds perching on our windows, perching in our backyards, in our front yards, and throughout our homes. Therefore, Chaim Kanievsky says that you have no das to be koned altogether. Ipso facto, you're uninterested in it. You don't even have to articulate it, but the nest, the birds, the baby birds, and the eggs are not yours at all, and therefore you could fulfill the mitzvah. It's ki yikre lecha, it's chance, it's upon you, and your backyard is not called your private reshus harabim vis-a-vis these nests because you're uninterested in it. Therefore, in this backyard and in any of your backyards or front yards, as long as either you have das or you have internal or the natural default das that you don't want these nests, you'll be permitted to fulfill the mitzvah. But there are 2 other important aspects, technical, that have to be met in order to fulfill the mitzvah. And the first of which is that you have to make sure you're shooing away the mother bird. As the pasuk says, Lo sika ha'eim al abanim. And the reason for that is seemingly that the mother bird is more connected to her kind and to her children, to her offspring, and therefore the mitzvah was said upon the mother bird specifically. Well, here we are in my backyard, and in your backyard, how do you know if the bird that you're shooing away is the mother bird or the father bird? Now that requires research, and again in the Sefer Shaleach Teshalach, he did some outstanding research of upwards of 20 of the most commonly found birds in rural areas and around the world, and which birds and how to know and to decipher and to detect if it's a mother bird or a father bird. The majority of birds, and again, I'm not speaking for all birds, but the majority of birds, the mother bird nests, rests, and perches and spends time on top of the nest protecting its young in the evening hours. That means from Shkias Hacham until Amar HaShachar, from sunset until daybreak. Typically, the majority of times and the majority of birds will be the mother bird. So therefore, as a result, in those circumstances, you could be pretty rested assured that it's the mother bird during those hours. And in the daytime, of course, it's the father bird. So therefore, you'd only be able to fulfill the mitzvah of Shiluach Haken in nighttime hours. Point number one. Point number two is that the bird that you're supposed to shoo away has to be a kosher bird. A non-kosher bird, there's no mitzvah because I'm not going to eat the bird, I'm not going to eat the baby birds, I'm not going to eat the eggs. So therefore, the mitzvah can only be fulfilled on a kosher bird. So again, how do you know in your backyard, your front yard, and your property that you're dealing with a kosher bird? You're all familiar that the Torah in two places, in Parshas Shmini and in Parshas Re'eh, articulates 24 non-kosher birds. Only 24. And thus Chazal say, it's Gemara Maseches Chulin, that all other birds are kosher as long as there's a Masorah, as long as there's a tradition that a particular bird is kosher. And we have old books and old Svarim and Masorahs, Baal Peh and Biksav that tell us which birds are kosher. Therefore, if you're looking to fulfill the mitzvah of Shiluach Haken, make sure that your bird is a kosher bird. Many birds we're familiar, which are kosher, which are not kosher. You're familiar, of course, a chicken, amongst others, a dove, etc. Turkey, of course, is a famous question. But nonetheless, you have to make sure that your bird is a kosher bird in order to fulfill the mitzvah. Let me share with you what happened and what's happening right now in this space that I'm in the backyard of my home. It was one morning that we had discovered that we had a nest in the backyard, and my son came running to me very excitedly that we have a nest, and we fulfill the mitzvah of Shiluach Haken. So I told him, take a picture of the bird, and let's figure out what type of bird it is, and then we'll research if it's a kosher bird. My son took the picture, came inside, and it turns out that after some research, we began to realize that the bird that we're dealing with in our backyard is an American robin. And in the Sefer Shalech Teshalach, he deals with the American robin, and the American robin indeed is a kosher bird, and we know that based upon a Sefer called Zivchei Kohen, which is an old Sefer of European stock, and there he deals with a robin, albeit it's a European robin, and our robin is an American robin. The pashtus is that we would not eat the American robin because we don't have a full Masorah that it's kosher, but Reb Yechiel Weinberger in his Sefer understands, based upon great poskim, that you can absolutely fulfill the mitzvah of Shiluach Haken with a suffix kosher bird, and this bird, the American robin, is more than a suffix kosher bird, it's a kosher bird, we're just not going to eat it, but you could fulfill the mitzvah of Shiluach Haken. So check one, it's a kosher bird, but how do I know if it's a mother or the father? So there he did some excellent research and noted that both the mother and the father look almost identical. They actually have a black feather or a grayish feather, but the belly and the chest of the American robin is a reddish orangish tinge. And therefore we knew absolutely that this is our American robin, but both the mother and the father, the male and the female, look identical. However, there he notes that the American robin, the mother, is always on top of the nest, not just in the night hours, but in the day and in the night. And therefore we were secure that we could fulfill the mitzvah of Shiluach Haken on the American robin, which, by the way, is a most classical bird that is found in many of our backyards and front yards. So therefore, if that's the bird that you're dealing with, you could do it both in the day as well as in the night, and it's a kosher bird, and you know that the mother is there throughout the course of the 24 hours. With that, we were ready, prepared to fulfill the mitzvah of Shiluach Haken. We had a mother bird, we had a kosher bird, it was in our backyard, and a chatzar is not koneh, and thus we were prepared to do it. But there are two other minor halachas they have to be prepared of. And number one, as you'll see, as I'll show you in a moment, you can't take the mother bird away because that's a lav, that's a negative commandment of losika cha'em alabanim. So we will take a stick, and that's what Gedolei HaPoskim throughout the generations did. There are pictures in the back of the book Shiluach Teshalach, Shem Zalman Auerbach, amongst others. They use the broomstick in order to shoo it away, because you're not taking it, you're shooing it away. So you fulfill the asay and the lav of losika cha'em alabanim by using a shoe stick, and at the same time shaleach tishalach hasa'em, I shoot away, and I will shoo away the mother bird, and then I will take a hold of the eggs. Interestingly enough, as we will see momentarily, and as we have noticed already, in this specific case, as you may see already, and you'll see momentarily, the nest that we have, which we check, is no longer has eggs. It's actually at this point what's called an efroach. It's a baby bird. So we will fulfill the mitzvah of Shiluach Haken on the American robin by shooing away the mother bird with a stick, then taking hold of the nest and of the baby birds, picking it up, therefore making a kinyan. So we've taken care of the lav and the aseh, we've shooed away the mother bird, and we've made a kinyan. We have acquired the baby birds, and therefore have fulfilled the mitzvah. I'll just close by telling you that there is a machlokas Rishonim whether a bracha is recited on the mitzvah of Shiluach Haken, and Rov Rishonim say that there is not. The Shas and the Bavli, there's no mitzvah of Shiluach Haken. Many Rishonim do have a mitzvah, but the psak is that we do not make the bracha on Shiluach Haken for multiple reasons, either because it's not a mitzvah chiyuvis, it's not a required mitzvah, or actually like Rabbeinu Bachai that we began with, that it comes through tsar, it comes through pain, because we have to shoo away the mother bird. So therefore, at this point, we are prepared, we are ready, and I want to share with you how I will fulfill the mitzvah of Shiluach Haken. It's a relatively rare mitzvah. It doesn't come up all the time, so it is exciting, and we are thrilled to be fulfilling the mitzvah. I'm excited to be sharing it with you. And at this moment, and at this time, I will walk you through the steps of shooing away the mother bird and then taking it. I would like to finish and conclude that the pasuk tells us that this mitzvah is l'man yitav lach v'harachta yamim. It's a special mitzvah, one of only two, Shiluach Haken and Kibbud Avayim, that we're promised that it's good for us and we will live a long life. Therefore, many people seek and try to fulfill this mitzvah in order to be recipients of the bracha of l'man yitav lach v'harachta yamim. And as Rashi points out in the pasuk in Parshas Kiseitze, just like an easy mitzvah, like Shiluach Haken has arichos yamim, through the hardest, most difficult, complicated mitzvah of Kibbud Avayim, honoring one's parents, also has arichos yamim. All the mitzvahs of the Torah have arichos yamim. The Medrash Rabbah here in Parshas Dvarim also notes that it's a skula to have children. As the pasuk says, Shaleach tishalech es ha'em v'esabanim tikach. If you shoo away the mother bird, you will be zoche to children. Therefore, some who have not been blessed yet with children try to fulfill the mitzvah of Shiluach Haken in order to be zoche in a zera shal kayama. So, Be'ezus Hashem, join me this moment as we fulfill this exciting mitzvah of Shiluach Haken. Just saw I shoot away the mother bird, fulfilling the mitzvah of shaleach tishalach es ha'em, shooing away the mother bird. I will now fulfill the second half of the pasuk, ves habanim tikach. I will take hold of the baby chicks. So follow me as I carefully go through the vines and take hold of the very, very precarious nest which is resting here on the fence. The baby chicks are calm. I am picking up the nest, thereby fulfilling the second half of the pasuk, Ve'es habanim tikach. I have taken hold of the baby chicks. And here you have a close-up look of our two baby birds. We have just learned and fulfilled the mitzvah of Shiluach Haken. Unbelievable.